Hi, and in this MicroVid we're going to be talking about an aspect of breathing mechanics. So breathing mechanics, and the specific aspect that we're going to be talking about is the difference, are the differences between volumes and capacities. So let's talk about volumes first, okay? So volumes refer to a single measurement of air in regards to the respiratory system. So for example, let's move this up a little bit. When we're talking about volumes, one type of volume is called tidal volume. And tidal volume is the amount of air exchanged during normal breathing. Okay, so what you're exchanging right now, that is tidal volume. You're not doing a maximal inhale, you're not doing a maximal exhale, you're breathing tidal volume. And tidal volume for a normal individual is about 500 mils. There are other types of volume. If we were to look at two other ones, there is what's called inspiratory reserve volume. This is the amount that you're able to inhale, the amount of air, the volume of air that you're able to inhale above tidal volume, and that can be abbreviated TV. And the next volume is expiratory reserve volume. So this is the amount of air that you can exhale below tidal volume. Okay, so we've got tidal volume, inspiratory reserve capacity, and then inspiratory reserve volume and expiratory reserve volume. So if we were to graph this, if we were to look at this on a graph, tidal volume would go up and down, up and down, up and down. Okay, and so this right here would be tidal volume. We said tidal volume is about 500 mils. Okay, so this is tidal volume. Now this right here is the peak of inspiration. So this is at the peak of inspiration, and then this is the peak, or the lower peak, the lowest point of expiration. Okay, so you can see how we're going to be going back and forth, inspiration and then expiration. Now, if you were to take at this point right here, so we're right here, we're getting ready, we finished an inspiration, and now we're getting ready to expire or exhale, and someone said stop. Now, before you let any of the air out, I want you to inhale as much as you can, and say you were able to do it, you followed that direction and you inhaled about that much, okay, and then you'd come back down. But this right here is your inspiratory reserve volume. This is IRV. This is the volume of air that you're able to inspire above tidal volume. Okay, and then also on the same line, you can see that, say you don't do that right here, but you expire normally, and then before you take the next inhale, someone says, okay, stop. At that point, I want you to exhale as much as you can. And so you did that. Say you exhaled and you did this. This volume right here, the difference between this point and this point right here, this volume would be expiratory reserve volume, because it is the volume that you can exhale that is below tidal volume. Okay, so those are some of the main volumes. There are other ones as well, but this is letting you know an intro to volume. So we talked about volumes at the single measurement. Let's talk about capacities now. So capacities. Okay, so we've got capacities. Capacities are multiple volumes. Okay, capacities are multiple volumes. Let's take a look at this. So there, if we wanted to combine inspiratory reserve volume, so right here, IRV, and which is the amount that you can breathe in above tidal volume, and expiratory reserve volume. If we wanted to combine those three, there's a capacity that describes that, and that is called vital capacity. And so vital capacity is, definition-wise, it's the total amount of exchangeable BLE air. Okay, it's the total amount of exchangeable air, or you could say it like this: vital capacity equals inspiratory, well, yellow doesn't work out well, inspiratory reserve volume plus tidal volume plus expiratory reserve volume. So that would be an example of a capacity. Now there are several other capacities that we're going to go over in the next part of this video. So continuing our talks in this MicroVid about volumes and capacities, we talked a little bit about what a volume is and what a capacity is, and just to recap real briefly, volumes are a single measurement where capacities are multiple measurements or multiple volumes put together. So I drew, before in the last MicroVid, I drew a spirometer trace over here, and we can actually see it. Let's scroll back over here. You can see the spirometer trace that I drew over here, right? So it was tidal volume and showing you what IRV was, and then ERV. So this is what an actual spirometer tracing looks like. We'll zoom in a little bit right here. And we've gone over the majority of the volumes. So we've got inspiratory reserve volume right here. We've got the tidal volume, right, normal breathing right here. And we have the expiratory reserve volume right there. Now there is one other volume that we didn't go over, but let's briefly go over it right now. This is called residual volume. Residual volume is the volume of air in the lungs that will never leave. If you exhale maximally, so you get to this point right here, you're exhaling as much as you can, there is some amount of air in the lungs that will never leave. This is a good thing. We want this because if the lungs were to fully collapse, it'd be very, very hard due to surface forces to get them to reinflate. This is one of the graphs that you'll see later on refers to hysteresis, and so hysteresis plays a lot larger role when the lungs are fully collapsed. So the lungs actually don't fully collapse, and the amount of volume that's left in the lungs is called residual volume right there. So let's talk about capacities now. We said capacities are more than one volume. So we've got over here, we have our first capacity, vital capacity. Now we talked about this a little bit. This vital capacity is the inspiratory reserve volume plus the tidal volume plus the expiratory reserve volume. So these three volumes right here give you vital capacity. All right, and you can see that here. So that's one of the capacities. We have another capacity. This is called inspiratory capacity. Now, inspiratory capacity combines two volumes. It combines respiratory or inspiratory reserve volume, number one, and then it includes tidal volume. So that's number two. So inspiratory capacity, if you write this out, that'd be inspiratory capacity equals IRV plus TV. Okay? So you see how that worked out? The next capacity that we're going to look at is, let's look at total lung capacity here. So we've got total lung capacity. This means all the volume. So that's total lung capacity could equal many different things. So TLC could equal vital capacity plus residual volume. TLC could also equal, let's do functional residual capacity plus inspiratory capacity. So that could be FRC plus inspiratory capacity. So you get the picture. You can combine, in order to make total lung capacity, you can combine many other capacities or volumes together. So there's a couple other ones that we're not going to go through. You get the idea. So that's what total lung capacity. It is the total amount of air in the lungs. This includes the air that you can't get out via exhalation. Let's see the next capacity here that we're going to go over. So we did, let's go over, so we did inspiratory capacity, we did total lung capacity. Let's go over, and we've already done vital capacity, so the last one that we're going to be doing is functional residual capacity. Now this is really important. Functional residual capacity, or FRC, is what we call something that we breathe from. So FRC is the residual volume plus the, so that we get the residual volume right here, and that's going to be up to this point, but now we need to get up to this point, and so that's the expiratory reserve volume plus expiratory reserve volume. So FRC equals that, but it's really important to know this, that we breathe from FRC. What does that mean? It means that when we're breathing, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. When we start the inhale right here, this point right here, this is FRC. So from this point down through here to this point, this is functional residual capacity, that volume. And this, if you'll notice, this is where we breathe from. This is where we start the inhalation. So we've just finished an exhalation right here. We're going blue. We've just finished an exhalation. And now we've exhaled, and this is normal tidal breathing. We've exhaled, and now we're going to start the inhale. But we start the inhale from this point right here called FRC. So that's really important that you all know that.